Choose.
Now we are going to study about various linear programming applications. In the previous chapter, we did study about what is linear programming, how can you define the objective function and the constraints for linear programming. Remember, linear programming can be applied for plenty of areas, in technical areas, in business areas, in many other areas like. So we are going to study about the applications of linear programming. So if you use the Brassical method, as we have discussed earlier, we can solve problems. It's okay to formulate a problem in an LP format and then you can solve them. But it is possible only if the problem is simple. If let's say the problem is complex, what could you do? So there are a few things we are going to look at that as well. So let's start with marketing applications like. Linear programming models can be applied in different areas. In the case of business, they apply in advertising area. And in the case of our computing area, they also do for many optimization problems. For example, if you are going to have the bandwidth available and you are going to distribute the bandwidth, okay, in cognitive radio networks, for example, there is a primary user, there is a secondary user. You want to distribute the spectrum availability between the primary and the secondary. This could be solved using some linear programming problems, okay, linear programming methodology. So in the case of marketing, they normally try to maximize their audience exposure or minimize their advertising cost like. Here is an example. There is a company which want to spend some $8,000 per week on an advertisement. The idea is to reach, or the goal is to reach a lot of audiences. And there are many ways they can advertise. Okay, they can advertise through radio, newspaper, TV, and so on and so forth. So they can place at least 5 radio spots per week and they have some limit. Okay, they can spend on the radio per week is only $1,800. So here are some constraints they have, some conditions like for a TV spot, if they want to make an 1-minute advertisement, it will reach like 5,000 people. The cost is $800 and maximum they can have 12 ads per week. Similarly, there is for newspaper, for radio spot, it can be for 30 seconds or it can be for a 1-minute duration. So if you want to formulate the LP equations for this, LP formulation for this, we can say X1 is the number of 1-minute TV spots, X2 is daily newspaper, X3 is the 30 seconds on the radio, and X4 is the 1 minute in the radio as well. So you can see we want to maximize the audience coverage. If you remember here, the coverage is given. So 5,000 into X1 plus the 8,500 into X2 and so on and so forth. Then the constraints. So here you can see you can only have 12 adverts on the TV. So X1 is maximum less than or equal to 12. X2 is less than or equal to 5 and so on. Then if you see weekly budget, the budget they have is only $8,000 per week. So if you count this, 8,000 into X1 plus 800 into X1 plus 925 into X2 plus 290 into X3 and so on is less than or equal to 8,000. And there is another condition, okay, they have a condition here. They can have place at least 5 radios. So at least means greater than or equal to 5. So radio can be from 30 seconds radio spot and 1-minute radio spot, which is X3 and X4. So this is X3 and X4 is greater than or equal to 5. And they also have a constraint here. no more than 1800 can be spent on radio advertisement. So again, you can see it is 290 into x3 plus 380 into x4 is less than or equal to 1800. Why 290? Remember, for x3, which is 30-second radio spot, the cost is 290 per ad, per advertisement. And remember the non-negativity constraint. So that is why we have this. So you can solve them using some computer solutions. It could be solved using some tools or plugins for Excel. It could be solved in other tools like R language, Cplex, and others. We'll discuss some of these tools in the later part of our course. Next, there is another example here. Here it is a MSA, which is Management Science Association. It's a marketing team. They want to make some survey. They want to make survey of some 2,300 households in the US. And they have constraints here. You can see survey at least 1,000 households where the head of the house is like less than 30 years old. At least 600 households when the head of the house is between 31 or 50 years old. And ensure that at least 15% of the surveyed house borders with, lives in the state which borders with Mexico. Ensures no more than 20% of these surveyed who are 51 years of age or above, okay, live in the state that borders Mexico. So these are some conditions they put. So you can have lots of constraints, and these are the cost per person surveyed. So this is what is the expenditure they have to face if they survey in a state that is bordering Mexico. Less than 30, it is the amount here. 51 to 31 to 50, the cost is all given. So now we are going to do like, we are going to see what is the least possible cost that could be attained. So they will say number of 30 or younger aged people, the head in a border state means border state with Mexico. X2 is 31 to 50, X3 is 51 to 30, 51 and above. So the first X1, X2, X3, these are in states that border with Mexico. X4, X5, X6 are in states that does not border with Mexico. Again, same, age 30 and 31 to 50, less than or equal to 30, 31 to 50 and 51 and above. So for each one, you can see the cost which is mentioned here, 7.50, 6.80 and so on and so forth. So just apply those costs because we want to minimize the cost here. This is a minimization function. So this is the cost factor for each one. And the constraint, the total household is given is like 2,300. That is a max at least. So it should be less than or equal to 2,000. No, greater than or equal to, sorry, it's at least. So it should be 2,300 or more. And you can see it says household 30 or younger than 30. They say at least 1,000 households. So let's go there. It will be like X1 is for 30 and less than 30 and 30, X4 also. So it will be X1 plus X4. This is from the state that borders Mexico. This is from the state that does not border Mexico. But both of them are with the people with the age less than or equal to 30. So it should be greater than or equal to 1,000. Accordingly, put all the constraints. Here is this constraint. Let's see how do we get this constraint here. So if you see, it says at least 15%. So you can see of those surveyed live in the states bordering Mexico. So bordering Mexico means X1, X2, X3, the first three. Okay, so this sum should be greater than or equal to at least, so it is greater than or equal to 15% of the total, which is X1 plus X2 plus X3 plus 4, X5 and X6. And if you see the next one, there is a constraint which says here, and ensure no more than 20%. So it is maximum 20%. Who are 51 years of age or over, okay, live in the state that borders Mexico. So you can see 51 and over. So 51 and over is X3, X6. This is a 51 over. And this is 51 but bordering with Mexico, in the state that is bordering Mexico. This should be at most 20%. So it is less than or equal to. And this is a non-negative constraint. So these things can be solved again using some kind of tools to get a solution for it. Let's take another one which is called manufacturing applications. So here there are companies which want to produce some items which is made up of many ingredients. So it's a mix of ingredients. They want to determine how to make good profit out of it. Okay, that is the prime goal. Mainly business means is to make profit. But if you talk about our network and other areas, we try to improve the performances, optimal distribution of load, okay, to so that we can have good usage of the resources. Utilization should be high, and we want to reduce the cost of using the services like. So here is an example. This is a company which want to produce 4 types of ties, and that's one is made up of pure silk, the other one is polyester, the other one is, there are 2 more. polyester with cotton and silk with cotton. So all silk, all polyester, polyester cotton and silk cotton. So there are 4 types of ties. And the material cost is given. Silk per yard, the cost is $24 and the others are also given. So maximum available yards per month is also given. Okay. So they want to make up this and they want to maximize their monthly profit. So they will say X1 is the number of silk ties produced per month. Okay, so this is per month, so we'll go with per month. X2, number of all polyester ties per month, and X3 is polyester cotton ties per month. X4 is silk cotton per month. So this is also given to you. All silk, the selling price is this. Monthly contract minimum, okay, so how much is the minimum they will need for it. Monthly demand is also given to you. Material required for a tie. So if you want to make, let's say, a silk tie, you need 0.125 yards of silk. Okay, this is 100% silk. And you can see here, this is 0.08 yards of polyester is needed to make a polyester tie. And this one, you can see 0.1, but you will see 50% polyester, 50% cotton. So it will be 0.05 yards of polyester and 0.05 yards of cotton. This is needed. Accordingly, you can calculate here, if you multiply this with 0.11 into with 60%, 0.066 will be for silk and the remaining will be for the cotton. And the prices, selling price is given, all these are given to you. So here is the calculation. If you want to make all silk one, which is X1, all polyester is X2 and so on. The number of yards needed is 0.125. You can see 0.125 here. Cost of silk is given, per yard is 24. So to make a silk tie, the production cost will be this much. Okay. If you multiply 24 by 0.125, you get $3. And you sell it for 19.74. So the profit will be this much. And then for X2, you will spend 0.08 yards of polyester. So polyester is also given here, which is like 6 is the cost per yard. Multiply them to get the values, and then you get the selling price is also given. So you get the profit. Accordingly, if you want to do the poly cotton, you remember it is 0.1, but it's 50% of polyester and 50% of cotton. So accordingly, you put the price, calculate it. So 0.05 into 6 plus 0.05 into 9, you get this value. The selling price is this much, so you get this much profit, and so on. Similarly, you have to do for the cotton, silk cotton. So you want to maximize profit, so we take the profit here. Remember, you cannot do it with this. This is the cost. This is your production cost, so you get this much as the profit. So maximize profit, this one 16.24 into X1, 8.22 into X2, and so on and so forth. So the constraints we have, it's given the maximum yards of silk available is 1200, nothing more. So that should be less than or equal to 1200. Why this much? Remember, for every X1, you need 0.125 yards of X1, and X4 also, which is the silk with cotton blended tie, the fourth type, you need 0.066 yards. Okay. Similar, polyester is also needed for the pure polyester, all polyester, and the polyester cotton tie. And the cotton is needed for the third one and the fourth one. Okay. And there is a contract minimum, which is given here. So minimum means greater than or equal to, as we know. And there is also the value of demand, monthly demand. So that is minimum you should meet. So it is less than or equal to. Okay. We should surely be this much and greater than this much. So all these are given, and this is the non-negativity. So if you take an example here, X1 is greater than or equal to 5,000. Okay. Monthly contract minimum. So monthly demand. This is minimum production. This is the max. If you produce more than this, we are wasting it, right? So this is what is given here. And the optimal solution can be found out, and how much is your profit can be done using some tools or some software. Next, if you talk about manufacturing application, still you can look at low cost production schedule. You have some time period you want to produce, you want to look for your, there are a lot of constraints you can have. Constraint based on space, constraint based on the labor availability, constraint based on many other things like, okay. You want to mix different products and you want to find out which one is better. Here's an example. This is Greenberg's motor. It produces 2 models, GMCA and GM3B, GM3A, GM3B. And this is the demand of order per every month is given, 4 months are given. Demand varies from month to month, and order is placed 3 times a year for 4 months at a time. So this is the first 4 months is given to you. And you can see each product might be made up of some ingredients, which you will see through also. Right, so they need to produce the required number of motors so that they ensure there is also ending inventory every month. They say at the end of the month this much is necessary. This is important to control the cost, and this is also based on the warehouse limitations. So they say ending inventory should be 450, carrying cost is this much, labor hours required is this much, production cost is this much. Every cost is given here. And there's also some conditions which are given to you. All the basic conditions are given. Maximum total inventory space available is this much. Labor cost increase by 10% by the March. Okay, third month it will increase. So you have to take all this. Importantly, we want to reduce the total cost. How? Total cost is made up of production cost plus the inventory carrying cost. How much you carry in your place? You are holding it in your warehouse. There are 4 demand constraints, one for each month for GMCA, GM3A. There will be 4 demand for each month or 4 months for GM3B, the other model. One constraint for GM3A at the end of the 4th month, and also GM3B at the end. This is this guy, ending inventory at the end of the 4th month for each one. And there is minimum labors allowed for each one also here. There is availability here. And there is constraint for maximum labor allowed, which is also there. Okay. And inventory storage each month is also there. So there are a lot of conditions. So we can start with AI. AI means for the GM3A, I stands for month. A1 means January, A2 means February, and so on. B is for the second model, same like B1 is for the month of January, B2 is for the month of February, and so on. Remember, there is a condition. Okay, the condition states there is a 10% labor cost increase. Okay, the labor cost will increase in the month of March. So it will be like there is 22 and 16.5 due to increase of 10%. Okay, in everything by March 1st. There will be increase because of there is this constraint here. So from the production cost, it will increase basically. There will be 10%, it will become 22. Here it will be more. Okay, it will be like 16.5. Okay, 15 plus 1.5. First one will be 20 plus 2. So the cost of production, you will get like 20 A1, okay, 20 A2, 22 A3, and so on and so forth for each one, and for B1 and B2 and so on. Why it become 20 earlier? First 2 months is 20 because it is given here, production cost per unit for A, and B is also given. But then later it says labor cost increased by 10%, okay. So that is why it become 22 in March and April and 16.5 in March and April for B. And then there is also what is called inventory carrying cost. So you represent it as IA 1, 2, 3, 4 for each month, IB for the GM3B, 1, 2, 3, 4 for each month. Here also it is given 0.36, 0.36, it's here in the table. Here, carrying cost is given 0.36 into X1 and so on. So you will have like, which is IA1, IA2, and so on and so forth. Remember, the carrying cost does not increase based on the increase in the labor cost. So this is what you want to minimize your cost. Cost is made up of all these things. So cost is the total cost, so it is a production cost plus the carrying cost. And then next we need to calculate few things. Inventory at the end of a month is equal to inventory at the end of the previous month plus the current month production minus the sales in the current month. So sales in the current month is equal to, just change the values accordingly. So if you want to see, sales in the current month, which is 800 in January for GMCA, will be A1, which is how much you produce in this month and how much you have left at the end of the month. So let's say in the start of the month you produce 1000 items, and the end of the month inventory is 200. So 1000 minus 200, the leftover is 800. Okay, the sold is 800. 1000 is what you produce, 200 what is left in the end of the month. So means 800 you have sold. So if you take the second month here, IA1, why? This is for February. For February, what is left by the end of January comes here, plus what you produce in February, minus what is left by the end of that month, the February. So this will be 700. So all these numbers are given. So you just follow them. Similar for March, similar for April. Similarly, you do for the B, which is GM3B also. And inventory by the end of April, which is IA4 and IB4, which is given here in this table. This is the end. Okay, so all this you need to put them into constraint. So this is what it is told about 4-month order schedule. Okay, because the order is specified clearly, no at least, no at most. So that's why we use equal to here. Okay. And then the labor cost, there is constraint also, 1.3 A1 plus 0.9 B1, okay, is greater than or equal to this much. Minimum labor hours, maximum labor hours, which is also specified here. So we apply those things also. Here, desired labor hours per month, minimum is this much, maximum is this much. So 2240 is the minimum, 2560 is the maximum. So these are the values which is represented here. 1.3A1 plus 0.9 B1. Why 1.3A1? It is again here. Here labor hours needed for A is 1.3, for B item is 0.9. So this is, so they are writing for each month. So you have A1, B1, then A2, B2, A3, B3, and so on and so forth. Minimum and the maximum. Then we also have some storage constraint. You can see it's mentioned here. This one. Maximum total inventory space available is this much, 3,300 units. Nothing more can be kept. So storage, IA1, so which is storing holding items, plus IB1 is this much, IA2 plus IB2. So for each month, for both the items, A and B items, and all variables should be greater than or equal to 0. So you can see it's quite a huge problem. You cannot solve it on a paper simply. You have to use some kind of tools to solve these problems. Next, you can take examples from employee scheduling applications like labor planning. Okay, you want to plan how many users to use at what time, and you might need to overlap some users at some point of time. Here is a very good example from Hong Kong Bank. They have like 10 and they have some tellers available at their place. It starts from, it's between 10 and 18 tellers is available during the time of a day. On a whole day, at a time there might be minimum 10, maximum 18 tellers available, cashiers available. And there's a lunch time which is from noon to 2 p.m. That is generally the busiest time. Bank employs 12 full-time tellers, full-time cashiers, and part-time also. They can employ many part-time. And the rules are this. Part-time can work exactly for 4 hours consecutively, okay? And they can start anytime from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., okay? And they are cheaper in terms of cost. Full-time, they work from 9 to 5 p.m. They will have a 1-hour lunch period. Half of the full-timers will eat at 11 o'clock and the other half will eat at noon, 12 o'clock. Part-time, they are limited to maximum 50% of the total day requirements. Part-time is paid $8 per hour on average. Full-timers get $100 per day on average, okay? And you have to see, they have to decide whether they want to release some full-timer so that they can make the business, okay? They want to reduce the cost. So you can see this is also given to you. The tellers needed, 9 to 10 is 10 tellers are needed, 10 cashiers are needed, 10 o'clock is 12, and so on and so forth. So it is given to you. These are restrictions are given. So variables, F, number of full-timers, P1, number of part-timers starting at 9 a.m., P2 at 10 a.m., 11 a.m., noon, and 1. If you remember, part-timer can start only from 9 to 1, okay? It is given here. Our objective function will be to reduce our cost. So for a full-timer, if you remember, they pay on average 100. For a part-timer, they pay average 8 per hour. Remember, they can work for 4 hours, so 8 into 4. They have $32 per day because a part-timer can work only for 4 hours maximum, at a stretch for 4 hours. So if you start counting the constraint, morning at 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, we need 10 tellers, if you remember. It's in the table here. 10 tellers is needed. So it will be like F will the full-timers plus the part-timer, the first part-timer who starts at 9 a.m. should be greater than or equal to 10. And F plus P1 plus P2. Why P2? P2 starts at 10 o'clock. P1 has started at 9 o'clock, so he is still following. He's in his second hour. He'll be there, continue for 4 hours, right? 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, and then he goes. The first part-timer will go. So it will be P1 and P2. It will be like greater than or equal to 12. Minimum they should have these numbers. The teller should be full. And you can see at 11 o'clock, P1, P2, P3, you know already. What is 0.5? If you remember, part-time, half of the full-timers go for lunch at 11 o'clock. So only part 0.5 is the remaining at lunch. And also at noon, another half will go. So it's another 0.5. So we count all these values, put all the constraints here. F, there is to be maximum 12 full-timers. It's also given here. Maximum they can have is 12. Okay. They want to reduce. That is their idea. All right. And then you can see there is a condition maximum 50% part-timer is given here. Okay, part-timers hours are limited to maximum 50%. So in a day, what is the requirement? In one whole day, okay, they need 112 hours, okay. And then you can see you have 4 P1. Why 4 P1? So it's like they do 4 hours, right? 4 times P1, 4 times P2, 4 times this, 4 times this, and so on. It should be less than or equal to 0.5 into 112. How got this 112? If you remember, there are full timers. How many full timers and how many hours? If you multiply them, or if you count the number of tellers we need, you get that number. Okay. So this is the maximum which is allowed. Only 50% of them can be part-timers. Remaining should be full-timers. So if you count these guys, 10 plus, this is 22, this is 36, 40 to 52, this is 70, 87. And then you will have like 87, which is 102, 112. So sum of all these tellers gives you 112. That is this value here. And this is non-negativity. So this one can be solved using any tool again. So this is their solution, like they can have multiple solutions also. Next, you can also apply in the case of financial applications, portfolio selection. You want to maximize your return and profit. You can do that also. Here is an example. Company, they want to invest in many things, invest in credit, bonds or gold stock or loans. This is the interest and this is the maximum investment they can do. Okay. So they have a total of this much to invest, and what is important is them is to return a huge amount of money. Return of investment should be high, and they have decided at least 55% should be in gold stock and construction loans. No less than 15% should be in the credit. So these are some constraints they are given to you. So all these are given. Now we can make up. So X1 for credit, X2 for how much you put invest in bonds, X3 for gold, X4 for construction loans. So you can see each one tells you how many percentage of interest. So you just put them 0.07, 0.11 and so on. Right, and this is the X1 is this much, which is already also given to you, millions of dollars. So the numbers are written here as a constraint. That's a maximum they can have. This one is because of there's a 55% value here. At least board decides at least 55% of the fund must be invested in gold and construction. So this is their condition. So at least this is X3 plus X4 should be greater than or equal to 55, which is 0.55 into the total. Okay. What is X3, X4? X3 is the gold, X4 is the construction. So it says 55% minimum, 55 should be in gold and construction. Similar, there is also a 15% rule that is also applied. Total, the maximum amount they can spend is also given. Okay. And again, we use some tools to calculate the answer for this. All right, this is the optimal solution they have a time. Next one, they have what is called truck loading problem. They have some items to be loaded on a truck, and they want to actually maximize the value of amount they load in the truck. These people, they have have to ship the following 6 items. These are items, that is the value of each item, that's a pound. Weight of the item, each one. Remember, there will be constraint, like a truck cannot hold everything. Truck has a capacity, some capacity. And so you will see what is the proportion of each item, item 1, item 2, item 3, how many I can load on a truck. Okay, again we use the maximization here. So you can see the value. You want to maximize the value, maximize your amount of items you stored in the, you put in the truck, in a single truck, for example. 22,500 into X1 plus this. And there are some conditions like. So you can see each one has a pound value, weight 7,500 X1 plus 7,500 X2. All this sum up cannot be more than this 10,000 pound, because 10,000 is the size that the truck can hold. Okay, and there is a constraint, another constraint. Remember, you cannot put half of an item. Let's say I take item 1 divided into half. No, not possible. So you can see X1 is less than or equal to 1. Okay, so basically here either it can be 0 or it can be 1. Okay, not more than 1, and so on. So X1 is a proportion of each item. Okay, and we solve them, you get some answers there. Okay. So there is also an issue. If the solution says 1/3 of an item has to be loaded in the truck, let's say it's possible, he can get up with a solution that it says 0.33 of an item. Okay, because he says less than or equal to 1, so it satisfies. It's not 0 and 1, this is linear programming. Okay, so then in that case, he has to use what is called integer linear programming. That is separate, which is an extra step from the linear programming, where only integer values are allowed, not divided fractional values. Okay, these are things. And you cannot round up the value, because if you round up, then you will exceed the capacity of the truck. okay. So you have to use integer linear programming, which you will study in another chapter. Then you can also have what is called ingredient blending algorithms, diet problems, for example. These are common, very popular LP problems. It's also called as feed mix problem. Like for example, in a patient, they want to give some items. They will say these are the nutrients and these are the requirements for the patient. And to reach this, they have items A, B, and C grains. So XA, XB, XC, each one. And what is the cost of them, how much proteins they have, riboflavin, and all this, all the four nutrients. So the values are given. Again, we have to form a condition. We want to minimize the cost. So the cost is given here, cents. So you make it into 0.33 into x1 plus 0.47 into xb, and so on. And there are some conditions. The protein units you should have, okay, it's minimum 3 units you should have, okay. So it is greater than or equal to 3 units. Why it is 22 XA? Because it is protein is A is in protein, it has A contains 22 units of protein, B contains 28 units, and so on and so forth. Again, we can formulate them. So based on these conditions here, right? And this is 0.425 because it comes from here, 0.2425. All the constraints are given. And total mix is 2 ounces. So we want to make join all of the size should be 2 ounces. So this is our plan. We are doing everything for 2 ounces, okay. 2 ounces is equal to 0.125 in pound. So it is just a conversion from ounce to pound, because every other value is in pound. Make sure all the units are in the same thing, and make sure there is non-negativity of the constraint of the variables. Again, you can solve them, you can get some answers there. Next, you can also do what is called ingredient blending applications. Here it is ingredient mix and blending problems. These are some special cases. It's also called as ingredient or blending problems. Blending problems arise when decisions must be made regarding blending of 2 or more products. Okay, you want to put 2 or more things together to come to one product. Okay, and there are so many conditions. How many percentage can be mixed, how many cannot be mixed. Here is an example. There's a company, an oil company. They have crude oil, 2 types. It's made up of ingredient A and B, and the cost is also given. Okay, so they can also produce regular and economy grade of these 2 types. So regular of first one, economy of the first one, regular of the second one, economy of the second one. Okay, so you can see barrels. X1 is X100 regular, second X2 X100 economy, X3 X200 regular, X4 X200 economy. Okay, they want to minimize. So you will see anything with X100 model, the cost is given as 30, and anything with the X200, the cost is 3480. So this is the cost. We want to minimize it. X1 plus X3 is greater than or equal to this much. So there is a condition. Minimum how much is needed, which is also given. So you put demand for regular is given, demand for economy is also given. So you provide. So it's given here. Minimum at least is this much. So it is greater than or equal to. Then you will see there are some other conditions. 45% of each barrel of regular must be ingredient A. So what is regular made up of? Regular is X1 and X3, which is this guy, regular X1, regular X3. So you will put here regular X1 plus X3, 0.45, because I said 45% of regular. And there is another condition, amount of ingredient A in regular. Okay, so how much of A is in regular? A in regular, 0.35, 0.60, okay. So you can see here, 0.35 X1, 0.60 X3. So this one should be greater than or equal to this, because it says 45% of regular must be ingredient, so must be satisfied, okay. So this should be more, then only I can satisfy this, otherwise I cannot satisfy this value. So minimum amount of ingredient required is this. This is the minimum value. So it is less than or equal or greater than or equal to. Smaller side is this side. So again I repeat, 45% of the barrel of regular must be ingredient A. Ingredient A is, so you want to put regular first, which is X1 and X3 is regular. So which is, this is the total regular you produce. 45% of the regular is 0.45 into X1 plus X3 and must be ingredient A. What is the capacity of A? A is here, okay, A, and this guy is 0.35, this guy is 0.6, okay, because we are using both types. If you remember, X1 is X100, X3 is X200, so it is 0.35 into X1 plus 0.60 into X3 is greater than or equal to, okay, must be. So this is the A part, this is the regular part. Similar, you can also do for others. Actually, we can move it out and bring the 0 here. Just bring them here to the left and you subtract them, get the values. There is also another, at most 50% of each barrel of economy should be ingredient B, at most. So you will find what is economy is made up of X2, X4, 50% is 0.5. It's at most, so it should be greater than or equal to. What about B? B has 0.55 and 0.25 with X2, X4. Again, you make this constraint. So we have all these constraints, and then non-negativity constraint is also given, and apply into a software to get answers. You can apply LP also in revenue management, where you can apply it to how many seats is available for each type. You can apply in hotel industry. You can also apply in data envelopment analysis. So you can see, like for example, if I have a company which is working, whether I am meeting all the objectives or not, okay, and we want to optimize. Objective is to minimize the resources required to generate the required output, and identify areas where we want to improve, make some improvements. It can be applied also in transportation, transshipment, and assignment problems. There are plenty of problems like this. We will discuss this in a different chapter. And transportation and shipping problem, how many items should go from the source to destination. This could also be solved. And here is an example like Top Seed Bicycle Company. They have some assembly plants, they have warehouses, and they have their own requirements as well. So it has to be assembled somewhere and it has to be shipped to somewhere. Okay, so here you can see from some place to some place, what is the cost? The cost is also given. So Xij, I small j here, number of units from source I to destination j. So you can see New Orleans is 1, this is 2, this is 1, 2, 3. So 1 to 1 is this much, 1 to 2 is this, and so on. So you want to minimize the cost, so it should be 2x11, 3x12, and like this, 5x13 plus this. And there is also demand, so x11 plus x21. What is the demand? So it says New York, you should have 10,000 bicycles. New York gets from New Orleans as well as Omaha, so it should be x11 and x21 should be equal to 10,000, and so on. And there is also a limit on how many a factory can produce, which is also given. New Orleans can assemble and ship only 20,000. So from here, if I sum up everything, should be less than or equal to 20K, and so on. So these are the constraints. So this could be satisfied, and you can see, note that every coefficient in front of a variable is equal to 1. Everything is 1, okay, because this is going from one place to another, and you can sort it out and solve it. You can use some tools to solve this, and that ends this chapter.